It's Tim Harford book.
Yes. You know this book?
Yes, I have read about this book.
Wow. What do you think? Yeah.
It's interesting book. Tim Harford gave many simple examples about the economics.
Yes, I agree.
Please enjoy the coffee and the book also.
Thank you.
Surprising when you hear
Yeah.
it.
Well, like now I know why a cup of coffee in Starbucks is expensive. It's not about the ingredient, it's about location.
Yeah, I agree with you, but just like I read also about why people cannot find a decent used car because seller hide about the information. Yeah, many things about insurance also. What about you, Maita?
Don't forget, as long as the problem for pollution and information. Actually, the first is about cartridge.
So, do you want to know more about this book? Let's find out.
Ever wonder why a cup of coffee in Starbucks is quite expensive? Is it because of the coffee bean? The milk? Or the barista? Ever noticed that all Starbucks coffee shop location is very strategic? Like the one in the rail station, with so many people in a rush for their train, they who need for coffee just stop by in the nearest coffee shop to buy and take away their coffee. The price? Well, they become insensitive to the price. People are willing to pay more for the caffeine, and coffee shop get benefit from it. In this chapter, Tim Harford tried to explain about the power of scarcity. Prime location is not easy to find. The landlord could ask high rate for renting the space, but it only works if the space can produce something valuable. Prime coffee shop location will command high rents only if customers will pay high prices for coffee. Rush hour customers are so desperate for coffee, so they are practically price blind. The willingness to pay high price sets the high rent. Rent also may high because the alternative that should be available are not available. If people has option or other alternative, they can compare and then decide what best for them. Business with scarcity power alone will not force people to pay more. Various strategies are used to persuade people to pay extra. This chapter is about how business try to segment their customer to increase overall revenues through price discrimination. There are three strategies to segment customer. First one, unique or individual target strategy. Identify and evaluate customer according to how much they are willing to pay. Second, group target strategy. Offering different prices to members of certain group. Example, reduced bus fare for students and elderly. Third is self-targeting strategy. Company persuade customer and charge high prices to customer who demonstrate a willingness to pay them. To attract customer, company has to sell products that are at least slightly different from each other. Customers indirectly confess that they are not sensitive to price. Let's take a look at how supermarkets run their business. Supermarkets sell a variety of labels and quality and are always seeking ways to get price-insensitive customers to pay more through self-identification. Supermarkets charge identical products differently, according to where its price targeting policies are focused. One way of diverting the shopper from the price difference of the alternatives is by not stacking them together. For example, organic vegetables, which is expensive, are not placed near the conventional vegetables. Supermarkets don't keep stable prices. because a price-sensitive customer will eventually come to know where products are cheap. Even products are sold tactically to deceive customers. So if you want to outwit the supermarket, observation is your best weapon.
Hello, this chapter tells us about George Akerlof, who won Nobel Prize in 2001 by studied markets where sellers of products have more information than buyers. He showed that low-quality products may squeeze out high-quality products in such market. This is tell us about adverse selection, asymmetric information, and moral hazard. To take a stark example, let's say that half of the used car on sales that are the worst are lemons, and half are the very best and reliable, the peaches. Sellers know whether the car they're selling is a lemon or a peach. Buyers have to guess. The lemons are worthless pieces of junk, and this is the model of asymmetric information. The peaches are worth more to prospective buyers than to sellers, otherwise the buyers wouldn't be buyers. Anyone who has ever tried to buy a second-hand car will appreciate that Akerlof was onto something. The market doesn't work nearly as well as it should. Second-hand cars tends to be cheap and poor quality. Sellers with good cars want to hold out for a good price, but because they cannot prove that a good car really is a peach, they cannot get that price and prefer to keep the car for themselves. You might expect that the sellers will benefit from their inside information, but in fact, there are no winners. Smart buyers simply don't show up to play a rigged game. Hello again. In this chapter, Tim Harford tells us about the dot-com bubble. The dot-com bubble was a historic speculative bubble covering roughly from 1997 until 2000. The period was marked by the founding of several new internet-based companies, commonly referred to as dot-coms. The collapse of the bubble took place during 1991 until 2001. Let's take a look at Pets.com and Amazon.com. Some companies such as Pets.com failed completely. Some, such as Amazon.com, came to exceed $700 per share, for example, after having gone from $107 to $7 in the crash. Mistakes happen all the time in the stock market. It is a natural part of the fluctuations in price value. Popularity is often a better indicator of the wellness of the stock than the real health of the company.
Chapter 7. The man who knew the value of nothing. If you don't know precisely how profitable by selling something, auction can be the one of option method. An auction could make a good result if the auction is clear, within simple assumption, and shall be followed by plenty of serious bidder. Whether applied to clothing at auction, it must be clear by now that game theory is as much art as it is mathematics. For example, an auction for radio spectrum license in United Kingdom. In spectrum auction, the problem is each bidder has his own forecast and technology plan, but each knows that other bidder will probably have different insight. The UK spectrum auction were prepared on detail. The auction was set to run in short rounds. The result of this auction had given the total revenue 29 billion pounds sterling. That was almost enough to halve the basic rate of income tax for a year. Chapter 8. Why poor countries are poor. Economic wealth comes from a combination of human resources and technological resources. Obviously, poor countries grew into rich countries by investing money in physical resources, improving human and technological resources, and implementing technology transfer programs. The poorer countries should catch up this quickly. In the other side, rich countries don't gain much from further investment. This is called diminishing return. One of the poor countries is Cameroon. Cameroon is one of the most corrupt countries in the world. Governments are simply bandits. The dictator's taxes more arbitrary and larger. Democratic pressure exists, but they are weak. Widespread poverty, economic growth running in reverse. An entire police force is too busy extracting bribes to catch criminals. Poor countries have the worst example of such regulation. Is there any chance that poor countries grow up? This problem cannot be fixed overnight. One simple reform is to cut red tape and allowing small businesses to be legally established. The second one is to enlist the world economy for help. A small country cannot survive without the world economy.
In this chapter, Tim Harford tried to explain about globalization. Is it good or bad? Some protectionists prefer to do trade barrier to protect domestic product versus the low price product from overseas. But in this chapter, Tim Harford shows some facts that country's economic condition is better in open market than the closed one. Each country can maximize its comparative advantage and get better off. Most people think that globalization makes firms from rich country to invest in the poor country because of the weak of law enforcement and cause the environmental damage. But actually, they bring new, clean, efficient technology to the poor country. The most advantage they want in the poor country is the low wages worker. But sweatshop phenomena is still happening in the poor country until now. This chapter was begun with Team Harford's mention on the new situation around the Renmin Gongyuan, the People's Parks in the middle of Shanghai. It was very different compared to his last visit 10 years ago, which was only 12-story red brick building as the tallest. But now, it becomes a skyscraper city. Let's back to the history of China. In the 1st of October 1949, Mao Zedong announced the People's Republic of China establishment and started to lead the republic. China is a big country, but until 1950s it was still a poor one, even it was poorer than Cameroon. As a leader of the country, in 1958, Mao Zedong ran the Great Leap Forward policy in the second five-year plan of China. The plan was building the heavy industry such as steel industry, and then application of special agricultural techniques. The country forced its people to do the Great Leap Forward policy, but it was resulted a disaster in China. 30 to 60 million people were killed in famine during this period. It was Deng Xiaoping who brought China to the new era. He replaced Mao Zedong and his follower in December 1978. He made the agricultural output grown by 40% in 5 years after he took over the power in China. It happened because he had brought the word of truth into China, the incentive method. The first one, raising the price by the state of the crops, and then raising the surplus crop price more than 40%. The success of agricultural reforms created the momentum and popular support for Deng to continue to reform the whole economy of China. Chinese government began a gradual shift to a market system, and the result is very dramatic. 15 years after Deng came to power, return on investment has increased. For every 100 yuan invested, China's annual output grew by 72 yuan. It is much higher compared to 1978 with only 19 yuan. China also provides a huge number of low-wages labor and invite foreign investment into China. It means the inflow of new technology and expertise. And at the end of the policy of the state to use the market system is the main cause in how China grow rich.